Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the LadyWisdom Podcast, where we excavate the hidden seeds of wisdom from her story. I'm Clara Moon, and I'll be your guide into this deep depth of remembering. I like to imagine myself as a curious clue finder, searching for the holy grail of meaning beneath the lessons of life. Being that this is the first podcast episode ever, it feels deliciously auspicious to release this story on the super blue moon. So let's dive in, shall we? Today's story is a deeply personal journey I've been walking for many years, walking this path of the artist way, walking this path of the pioneer, and unfurling from the wounds of the patriarchy and empowering myself as a creatrix and as a matriarch in the making. I see the matriarch is in the process of remaking herself, coming home to herself from centuries of repression and oppression. And many of us have learned how to suppress our voices from these years and years of repression that we have faced, unable to speak our truth as woman. And it's all coming up to the surface now like magma exploding, this volcanic vault of sacred rage that is now being expressed through our bodies, through all of our lineages. So I desire to dedicate this podcast to all of the wise women, the healers, the womb shamans, the mystics, the priestesses, the Amazons, the midwives, the mothers, the soul sirens, who carried the hidden wisdom seeds throughout the braids of time in their songs. For so long, I feel like we've been listening to his story preaching at the pulpit. And I believe it's divine timing for her story to be told. It is divine timing for us to reclaim and celebrate all of the stories of our lineages, weaving our bloodlines together through the human art of storytelling, my favorite art form. So I thought I would start with a bit of my own origin story, talking about my bloodlines. My bloodlines stem from the bloodlines of Europeans and Native American lineages. In particular, my European bloodlines come from ancestors of the Baltic Sea region and of the Nordic lands that we commonly known as Germany and Prussia and uh, England, United Kingdom, and Ireland. And of course, my native heritage, my indigenous peoples within me, the Cherokee, the Tasagi tribe, the tribe of my mother. So through these different bloodlines, I have inherited a lot of different stories from our ancestry. And, as we all receive these stories from our mothers and our fathers and our grandmothers and our grandfathers. And on both sides of my family, there's this story of being displaced from our homelands with the forcible removal of our people from one area, both on both sides of my Prussian ancestors being forcibly removed because of war, and with the invasion of Russia coming in into Baltic Sea lands, and the same with our Cherokee ancestry of being forcibly removed from what is now considered North Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina by the new Ecota Treaty, which was the legal action for the forcible removal of Native Americans from the East Coast out to the Cherokee Reservation, which is now in Oklahoma. So this is deeply a soul yearning to rediscover where is home for me. As part of me coming home to myself is recognizing these inherited stories that I have received from my family. And one of those is this story of competition and comparison, and this story of not having enough, not having a place to belong, feeling exiled, feeling like no longer worthy of having a home, or feeling like an outsider. So these inherent stories of lack, these stories become belief systems over time, and we feel clogged by these perceived boulders when we are navigating these rivers of life. And so I've noticed that some of the biggest perceived boulders that many of us experience, especially as creators on the path of the artist's way, is feeling there is a lack of money, or lack of resources, or a lack of time, or a lack of community and support. So I have these amazing creative ideas and projects, but I'm not funded, I'm not resourced enough, I don't have the money to put forward into it, or I don't have the time, or I feel this like sense of like it's too late for me, or I feel this sense of like no one is supporting me, I feel like I'm doing this alone. And then there's the thought that turns into the belief system of why even try? I have these like blockages on the road, these perceived boulders. But like my friend Lindsay, who is a very experienced kayaker, always tells me, it's a deep wisdom of kayaking that says to lean into the boulder when you're going down the river of life. And so that's why I think leaning into the river is about challenging those inner narratives. And this is why I love a good morning writing practice, because that's where I can challenge the narratives in my journal, and also inspire others through the art of sacred scripting to empower them to write out new narratives for their greatest fears, their greatest lack stories, and replace it with more empowering affirmations. So I guess you can gather that the biggest lack story for me that I inherited from the patriarchy is this construct of the starving artist, feeling like I don't have enough time, not enough money or resources for my creative ideas, and also a lot of feeling not supported by the community, especially not supported by perhaps the parents, the authority figures in my life, where I so desired as a child to be seen as this artist, to be seen in this way, and to be celebrated for my creative gifts. But, I wasn't always like, it wasn't always a celebration of being an artist for me. It was always growing up in a household where it was seen as just a hobby and not actually a career or a platform for which I could build the foundation of my life. And so I held a lot of wounds around this inner child who was told that it can never be, a career for you, and a father who would always tell me to go get a real job. And he still tells me this to this day. But I'm a sacred rebel at heart. So anytime an authority figure is going to tell me to do something, I feel this artist way, this higher purpose calling, and prove them wrong. Like, I don't know. Some people don't feel that same conviction, but like I really love proving my dad wrong. I really do. And at the same time, he's still proud of me for all that I have accomplished in my artist path. So, yeah, this aspect of our support system, our community that is surrounding us is, to me, the greatest abundance that you can have as a creator. Being surrounded by people who inspire your growth is essential to the artist's way. It's essential to have that support, to feel that accountability with people around you. And it's really challenging to walk that path of the creator alone. So often we can easily fall into those traps of why even try, which essentially is just setting yourself up to fail on your dream seed because you don't even attempt to go for whatever your passion or your project is. And I just want to recognize that attempting to be creative and to do a creative project or pursue a creative idea, it takes so much courage to face the criticism that exists both internally and externally, because us artists, we are our worst critic internally. And I have to overcome that voice every single day. And even recording this podcast episode is so much overcoming for me of feeling inadequate, like I don't know enough. I'm new to this, feeling like it's not going to be good enough. Yeah, so those thoughts still exist, but I am challenging the narrative and saying that I am worthy, that I am enough, I am adequate enough to go after what my heart most desire. I see myself in joy and love. I know I am enough. I see myself in joy and I know myself. I am. I see transforming the starving artist story now into the narrative of the thriving artist. And I remember thinking to myself, what does it look like for me to be a thriving artist? How would I design my life to be in a place of abundance, in a place of prosperity? What would my life look like? How could I be the active co-creator of the masterpiece of my life? And really, that starts with questioning, what does abundance and wealth truly mean to me? So I like to say, you cannot go onto a quest without first questioning, what does it mean to be wealthy? What does it mean to be wealthy? What does it mean to be wealthy? What would it mean for me to embody my true inheritance, my true wealth of being? What would it feel like to allow myself to be wealthy? What would it feel like to allow myself to be wealthy? So I pulled a wisdom card, an oracle card for this occasion, of course, and this is from my plant ally deck. And the card that presented herself to me was the plant ally Tulsi. And Tulsi is also commonly referred to as holy basil. She's the queen of the herbs, and she comes into the palm of our awareness today. She's the mother medicine of nature herself, considered to be Rasayana, master plant, in the ancient Ayurvedic wisdom of India. She is the embodiment of the goddess Lakshmi herself, bringing us the gifts of generosity, prosperity, abundance, and expansion.
Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha.
In India, Tulsi grows wild and thick, and her fields are holy terrains between heaven and earth. Lakshmi, in the Hindu pantheon, is the auspicious goddess of wealth and abundance, who creates from a place of innocence, curiosity, and passion. And she is always depicted with 4 hands. These 4 hands are significant because it represents the 4 universal goals of life, which is the Purushartha, which are the 4 lessons of life. First one being Artha, which is prosperity and wealth. Second one being Kama, the pursuit of pleasure. Dharma, the third, which is our values, our duty, our higher purpose. And the fourth is moksha, which is liberation, our freedom, our spiritual self. So this really inspired me to come up with the lessons that I have received from the process of the matriarchy remaking herself. So this episode is a dedication to the lessons I've learned from the matriarchy. And there's 4 lessons. And 4 so happens to be my favorite number. There's 4 pillars of every house. There's 4 elements. So let's go ahead and dive into the pulp, the juice of the wisdom here from the lessons of the matriarchy. So the first one is that there's enough. There's enough for everyone. The lessons of the patriarchy always told us that there wasn't enough for us, that we always had to compete and compare ourselves with other people, that we don't have enough resources, that we are in this lack story and we're in this hamster wheel forever rotating around this spiraling of lack. But unfurling from that, the matriarchy teaches us that there's enough for everyone. So when I think of like the archetype of the matriarch, I think of her like a grandmother figure. You show up at her house, she's got the hearth like warm. It's like the table is set for like a feast. She like bows to the goddess Hestia. Hestia is like a Celtic goddess of the hearth and the home. So she has this warmth about her. She has this feeling of feeling home, coming home and feeling that warmth and feeling that hearth. And you know you're going to get fed. You know you're going to get fed and you're going to get fed well. And she always has this sort of like magical kitchen to her where there's just this never-ending supply of food and resources and wisdom available. And she's fully sourced as a woman, divine feminine archetype, and she sources herself because she is such a resource for the community. So much of this is intertwined in food and how food tells the stories of our people and how food unites us back together around the table of gratitude. And the matriarch is a lot about this place of coming together in gratitude, breaking the bread together. And I often think of this biblical story, this miracle of feeding the 5,000. It was something that I remember listening to as a kid and thinking, how could he do it? Like, how could Yeshua do it? Like, he did this sermon on the hill to 5,000 people, and then he broke 5 loaves and 2 fish and was able to feed 5,000 people. So this story hits home for me because about a year ago, I wanted to host a equinox gathering here on our land, and my landmates and I, we currently live in Northwest Georgia on ancient Cherokee lands right off of the Trail of Tears. So the very walkway that my ancestors once walked and were forcibly removed from their home, here I have returned to these ancient indigenous homelands and have created a home and a hearth here for myself to thrive. And the biggest thing that I wanted to share moving into this space was sharing space with the community and having events where we could bring our prayers and our songs around circles and activate drum circles and lift up the prayers for the healing of this land, of the trauma that's happened from the soil. So we decided to host this equinox gathering here on our land, and we prepared for what felt like a whole week for our friends and our family to come out and celebrate with us this harvest season. We weren't the best at planning it because we just so happened to plan it the exact same day that the Mushroom Festival was also happening in Cave Spring, Georgia. So the crossover of that and our gathering made it to be a little bit chaotic in some sense. Definitely a learning lesson there. And so a lot of our friends were going back and forth between the Mushroom Festival and our home, which where we were having the equinox. And there was this sense that I felt this urgency of like, I have to really prepare a lot of food for our people who are coming. Food is definitely my favorite love language, especially in gifting food to people. That's the biggest way I like to be of service for others. I think feeding people is essentially the greatest thing that we can do, feeding people, whether that's through food or through wisdom. But I felt those inherited lack stories really coming up on this day of the equinox for me, those inherited stories, because my ancestors went through times of lack, of starvation, of not having enough food, of having to live for years off of potatoes during war times, of not having the right crops grow, of having crop failures. And so this innate sense within me felt this huge wave of fear throughout my entire body that was like this crippling anxiety that just like hit my chest and started fluttering inside, of feeling like that there wasn't going to be enough food for everyone for this potluck. And I remember witnessing everyone show up, and with every single person that came, the fear would rise and rise and rise, and this of feeling inadequate and feeling like there's not enough. And I remember praying that there would be enough food for everyone that evening. And I believe there was about 50 or 60 people who showed up on our land that day. And by some miracle beyond myself, we literally had enough portions for every single person to eat that evening. And that was a miracle in my eyes. I witnessed, when I witnessed everyone in our tribe, everyone in our community happy with full bellies, with their bowls, sitting in circle with one another, conversating, there was something inside of me that just like rippled out, and realization there's enough for everyone. There's enough for everyone. And if there's enough for everyone, then there's enough blank for me. There's enough space for me. There's enough food for me. There's resources for me. There's enough time. I am enough. I have enough time. I have enough resources. I have enough. I am enough. So this is the first lesson of the matriarchy, which is all about that there's enough for everyone, but For us to have enough, it requires all of us to share our resources together. And this is about, you know, breaking bread together and giving each other. And if we want to call in our inner breadwinners, we got to share those sourdough starters. Have you ever tried to make sourdough bread? You literally have to get a starter from someone else who has already made sourdough bread, and it has to be alive. Like someone had to keep that sourdough start alive. And I'm like, well, how did we even get the first startup? But it's just this long lineage of just like sourdough starters being passed from one person to another. When I think about that, that feels like a miracle of sorts that we can pass these seeds of starting something to one another, that we can be those breadwinner babes by empowering others through swapping and sharing our resources with each other. So, transitioning into the next lesson of the matriarchy, which is all about dancing in our pleasure and our passion. I had this realization after a really potent plant medicine ceremony that if I want an orgasmic life, I need to slow down and realize that I am already in the dance of pleasure. You are already in the dance of pleasure. All you need to do is slow down. Just give yourself permission to slow down, babe. What would that feel like in your body just to slow it down and to feel pleasure in your body as it rides through? You know, when we are rushing through things, we are really losing those fine details. We're losing those details of pleasure and joy and creativity. And if we are choosing to live our life in this fast-paced, like productive, dominated society, we're never going to be able to really tune in to our pleasure because we're rushing towards results all the time. We're not really honoring the creative process. So I thought to myself, what if I could give myself permission to lean in with ease to my responsibilities and my duties in life, and that I can create products and services from my heart that arrive in complete, alive lines, no longer deadlines, that I can complete task in divine timing, and I can work and play sustainably towards my dreams, trusting my intuition, trusting my energy, trusting the flow of abundance. Comparison is the enemy to your joyful life. And all of our lives, I believe, is special and sacred. Every journey holds its own magic. And I believe every single person, carries their own unique medicine. And sometimes all we need to do is remember to slow down and realize we are already in the dance of pleasure. So showing up in that dance sometimes is showing up for ourselves, pouring ourselves a delicious cup of hot Beverly first thing in the morning before you pour for another. And that self-care piece of slowing down, honoring our cycles as women. We are in this creative flow, and there's places where we feeling inspiration, and then there's places where we are feeling like our needs are turning. I personally am in this place of prioritizing personal well-being and passion over productivity. And really that has been unfolded through witnessing how Mother Nature gets her work done, how she honors her own cycles, leaning into how I can honor the pace of my heart over the pace of my monkey mind. So I feel this essence of patriarchy really focused in being productive and having product and being in this production mode. But the third lesson of the matriarchy is all about seed to fruition, focusing on being fruitful rather than productive. So when we are acknowledging what our dream seed is, what our heart's calling is, that's us first recognizing this imprint that we were born with of our souls. This is your soul calling. This is your greatest heart prayer. And when planting this dream seed, it's required for you to have patience for the process of that growth. You have to tend to that garden of life, watering that dream garden, showing up to the garden of our dreams, showing up to the best of our capacity, taking small steps every single day, daily acts of devotion. It's so challenging because we live in this world where the consumer demands for instantaneous results. And we often become this like worn out, tired byproduct of productivity. And because the focus is more on the output or our results than the yin organic process of creation. And to me, creativity is a yin experience. It's a yin process. And just like Mother Nature takes her time, she still gets everything accomplished that she needs to accomplish. So honoring this cycle that I am in as a woman, reflecting in that, honoring the cycles of Mother Nature, I realized I need to carve out time for womb regeneration, for healing, for activation time, for me to be inspired. I need to carve out spaciousness for me to not just be a worker bee all the time. And that was a really pivotal moment in learning how to redesign my business to honor my own creative flow and my cycle. I want to create from a place of succulence when the inspiration is ripe, leaning into community when I need a little help from my friends. I want to lean in to my intuition and listen when it feels right to go inward. I want to value my rest as much as I value my creations. Your creativity is your greatest superpower. So when that waterfall is surging, soak it up. But sometimes that waterfall is like a little trickle, and it doesn't really work to try to like force the rains to come when you're feeling like it's a dry desert out here. You're feeling a bit more conservative of your energy and who you're sharing that with. So recognizing that has been really pivotal in creating a business where I utilize my more active days to accomplish a lot more than what I would on my more chill days. And this is a big part of how I've been the active co-creator of my life, is creating from a place of freedom as well. I believe that we all should have a business where we love to show up. We love to show up with our medicine and deliver that medicine. And my business, Moon Media, is all about helping people actualize what their soul calling is, what their unique medicine is in this world, and helping them birth their vision of their business to life through this creative wheelhouse of brand identity, design, photography, illustration, and of conscious media. So for the last 2 months, I've been working on a pretty big project with a magical friend of mine. Her name is Brittany Phoenix Rex, also known as B, the Phoenix. And we have been working in collaboration together to re-offering to the world. And a part of that has been reclaiming that narrative for herself of what a soul siren is. And I'm really excited to announce that I finally sent off all my hard work, all my designs on Friday to her in an email. And it felt like the greatest outpouring of gratitude, the greatest outpouring of love to just like press that send button on that email. It felt like, hey, sister, I see you. I think what you're creating is amazing. I support you. I believe in you. I see you. I acknowledge you. I recognize you. And I'm pressing full send on you achieving your dream seed of being the soul siren, being the phoenix, being the queen of your life. So may you rise. May you rise, queen. And I mention her here because she was a very big inspiration for me in wanting to create this Lady Wisdom podcast, because when I guested on her podcast several months ago, which is Be the Phoenix, we were talking a lot about the queen codes and what it's like to be on this path of the creator, and how I have embraced, this essence of being unique, being this authentic expression of myself. And that really inspired me to want to create a platform for her story. So here we are, first episode of this dream unfolding now, and it feels powerful. It feels a little intimidating, I'm gonna be honest, of a learning lesson in all of this.
I see myself and I see myself. I see now. I see I am enough.
the fourth lesson of the matriarchy, and also the lesson that I think that we all are learning from the creative process, is learning how to trust. Learning how to trust the unfoldment of our dream seeds, trusting the creative process. And the way I see it, I experience freedom as trust. Trust and freedom are a symbiotic relationship. And it's through trust that we can truly experience moksha, true liberation. So even though that we have these waves of fear and waves of doubt, I'm still leaning into those perceived boulders with curiosity. And like the goddess Lakshmi, I think that the innocence of our inner child and the curiosity of our inner creator is very key to trusting our, because curiosity, when we lead from this like curious eye, there's no hesitation. There's already like this built-in desire to know more about this, or to investigate, or to excavate what this is. So following those curiosity, trusting those curiosities, because I feel like those are like hidden Easter eggs for you on your path. And learning how to trust yourself is going to be a big component in that. So often I see all of us women, we got some strong intuitions, but it does not mean we always are listening. Okay? We got to learn to listen to our intuitions and trust our intuitions. That's, building the foundation to be able to climb the mountain, essentially. And the mountain is the path that we walk as artists, the path that we walk towards our dreams. It's gonna be beautiful and epic, but it's also gonna be challenging. I'm gonna be real with you. It's not an easy journey always. So this trust is a big component in the journey, because when you can truly trust yourself, you can lean into that sacred navigation. Your inner compass is that North Star, that guiding force, and that always points in the direction of where your curiosity is. And as long as you follow that North Star, you will never be lost in your journey, even in the darkest night or the brightest day. Me personally, I feel so much gratitude to be able to discern and learn these. Just to recap for everyone, the four main lessons of the matriarchy is: one, there's enough for everyone. It's time to slow down and be and embodied in that dance of pleasure. 3, valuing the seed to fruition, our creative process towards our highest heart calling. And 4, trusting the journey, trusting ourselves, which is true liberation. So I see you, sister, brother, mama, father, son, daughter. If you want to be a breadwinner, babe, it always comes back to trusting the creative process. So have you ever made, I don't know if you've ever made homemade bread, but you got to keep folding that mother flowering dough. Keep kneading, keep kneeling, keep praying, keep singing, keep dancing. No matter how empty or full you may wake up, no matter how high or low you may feel, just know You are divinely guided, supported, and protected, now, forever, and always. Go make those garden beds with those dream prayers. And in the matriarchal making of this bed, we must recreate our villages. As Anunnaki says, the village is built on trust and a relationship with the seen and unseen forces of this world. For those who have eyes to see, it will be revealed this deeper symbolism. And for those who have ears to listen, will be enchanted by the significance of these her stories, as there's many lessons we're all receiving from the remaking of the matriarchy. Thank you, beautiful soul, for tuning in with me today. I hope you feel soul quenched and inspired from this podcast episode. And if you felt some sort of delight throughout this time with me, I encourage you to follow my Instagram page, which is Lady Wisdom. And if you want to support this mission, this podcast, I highly recommend subscribing to my Lady Wisdom Substack membership. It's only $5 a month to receive more wisdom tales from the crypt of creation. And that is at ladywisdom.substack.com. That is ladywisdom.substack.com. And I intend on releasing a new episode every full moon. So please join me on the next rising of the moon. Keep showing up to the garden of your dream. Keep creating and shining your brilliance and your light, sea stars. I love you, and aloha for now.